and they feel like going on social media and talking about themselves or whatever comes off as try hard. And you want to know something? It is try hard, except that everyone's doing it. And the thing you have to know is that the guy who's getting the business you want, he's on social media. The guy who's getting the girl you want, he's on social media too. Why aren't you on there?
I'm going to tell the story of how I got interested in what Michael has to teach. Okay, so first of all, this was me in maybe like 2010. And I met a guy named Nick Daniels. And Nick came up to me and he said, hey, Owen, I think what you teach is awesome. It's really, really cool. But what you do is like superhero shit, because what you're doing is like defying all the fucking odds. You're basically beating all the odds in order to meet new people and to have a social life. And he said, why don't you actually pause and work on building a social circle? And if you did that, you would literally just have to do nothing. Now, I personally believe there's all these advantages to working on how to just meet people randomly. It builds your subcommunication, builds your frame. It's like socializing in the most pure form. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And even though I do huge parties at my house all the time, I will still go out and meet people regularly because I like it really just for the more sport aspect of it, okay? It's just like a joy to do. It's just a lot of fun and you learn a ton from it. Made me a better public speaker, changed my life. But as far as things just being very, very easy, what Nick said to me is he said, look, why don't you spend a month with me and we're not going to try to talk to anybody. We're just going to go and hang out and build a social circle and watch how your life changes. Well, it was mind-blowing what he showed me. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. Later, I wound up meeting Michael in Vegas, and as well as Michael's friend Luke Krogh. And both Michael and Luke basically showed me the most incredible, incredible ideas on building a social circle. And I'd be out there with Michael. This was before, Michael's a very famous guy now. Michael was not famous back then. And Michael would bring me into like fucking parties and he would bring me fucking everywhere. He'd be trying to get me to use Snapchat at the time. It was completely fucking mind-blowing. I'm gonna talk a lot about the success barriers surrounding me initially using things like Snapchat. But like, what was it like for you meeting me and seeing that I'm, you know, kind of going about it the way that I'm going about it, and you've built this like huge kind of social situation in Vegas, and what were you trying to show me? What did you want me to understand?
So in the beginning, like when you and I met, we met in 2011 in Chicago, and back then, like that was the first year that Instagram had started up. Mm-hmm. So I still kind of understood, like, it's really weird. I have a friend of mine named Tom Sosnoff, and this guy's a billionaire. He sold several brokerages. He used to be a pit trader. Do you remember pit traders? The guys who sit there and they hold the buy and sell things at the New York Stock Exchange. He said the first day he saw automated trading, he was like, we're all out of a fucking job. When I saw what was going on with social media, I was like, we're all out of a fucking job. Like I really saw what was gonna happen was, so like as men, we like our validation from, we like our validation from compliance. From women like their validation from attention. And I was like, man, a lot of these women are going to be able to get their validation without having to go out anymore. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to have to do something to kind of get them to come out. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I came into the idea of understanding how events worked, of how social media was able to like scale whatever I was trying to do. It's really funny because you remember when online marketing started, you could make you could make so much money from Facebook ads because a lot of people hadn't got into it. Ty Lopez, he spends like $19-20 million on that first ad of him in the garage. He gets 74 million views, more than that, like different versions of it here in my garage. He got more money. He made more money per dollar spent because he was first to market. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. He understood the concept of going online and then using that to scale a business. For some reason now everyone does it. Everyone buys meta ads. Meta ads is really common for people to do that. But the idea of scaling your business by using social media or by using the internet in general makes sense. But for some reason, when it comes to networking, we don't want to do it. For some reason, when it comes to networking, when I say, hey dude, your Instagram makes you look like a terrorist, like that isn't, like stop looking like that. Your Instagram makes you look like a really big weirdo who stalks people. You need to change your Instagram. People don't grasp what I'm saying and they think, well, this little change I have, well, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna get on Instagram. This happens a lot of times with 40 or 50-year-old men who've been divorced because when they got married, there was no Instagram. And now that they're divorced, it's like you have to explain to them, like, dude, you look weird as shit. You got to do something to fix this. And they don't wanna do it because they're very hard-headed and they feel like going on social media and talking about themselves or whatever comes off as try hard. And you want to know something? It is try hard, except that everyone's doing it. And the thing you have to know is that the guy who's getting the business you want, he's on social media. The guy who's getting the girl you want, he's on social media too. Why aren't you on there? And so after a while, it becomes more and more obvious. So like back then when we first got into Snapchat before Instagram, it was one of these things where it was like, hey man, you can see where everybody's at. Like I don't have to guess what the cool club is. I know where I'm going. I know like who the people I want to hang out with is. And here's the other thing. I can display certain levels of access, value, competency, relevancy, and access to scarce resources using my social media with very little perceived effort. And the crazy part is I can see who watched my story, or I can see who watched my snap. I can see who watched my story. And like that part that's the most mind blowing. When IG story came out in 2017, that broke everything. Because once IG story came out, you could post memes, you at the club, wherever, and like you could literally see every girl who watched your story. And I was like, oh, everyone's gonna start doing this. And no one did. It was like one of the weirdest things I ever seen. So it's very interesting to me. And then, you know, Bilzerian, he goes away like after COVID happens, and he gets rid of the house, the 10979 Shalon Road house, the big Ignite house. When he gets rid of it, he takes about a year and a half and writes a book. And when he writes the book, like in one of the early chapters, he says social media is the best way of showing high status with low perceived effort. So scalable levels of status with low perceived effort. Now, what I just told you, that's what I've realized after the last 10 years. When I first showed you Snapchat, it was just like, man, this is a great way to see where the girls are.
Yeah.
This is a great way to see where the things are going. Because I've always felt like this, and maybe some of the people who are watching this have felt like this too, but I've always felt like when I was in high school especially, or even when I was in college, there was a place the cool kids were getting invited to and I wasn't getting invited to. There was a party where all the pretty girls were, but I wasn't getting invited to. There were the guys who always got the best business deals and had the most connections, but I wasn't getting invited. I wasn't part of that group. I didn't know how to play politics with my boss. Like there was these things where it was very clear that certain people had access to more and better things. And at first, I hated that. I hated those people. I thought that was super unfair. The hobnobbers and I call bootlickers, whatever. And then later I understood after meeting Dr. David Buss, it's just an evolutionary adaptation. It's an adaptation. Humans that were able to network with other humans and build tribes and become the leader of those tribes always had, throughout history, access to more resources, food, and women. Always, throughout history. It wasn't that networking was this weird thing. It was an evolutionary adaptation that's been passed down through 200,000 years of Homo sapien evolution that we've gotten to this point. Because when you think about it, like the individual Homo sapien by himself cannot stand up to the bear. He cannot stand up to the lion. He cannot stand up to the tiger. But the tribe of men can. And so men becoming tribal was an adaptation to become the apex predator on the planet. So what would that do? Well, that means today, you having that ability to lead men would be the most advantageous thing that you could do. I've said this a million times. The apex of human existence is a family and accomplishing goals with other men. That is the apex of you think it's making all the money or having a threesome. No, the apex of human existence is accomplishing goals with other people. Beating the odds, and you in a team. That's why we watch the World Cup. It's why we watch the Super Bowl. It's why we watch war movies. It's because we are watching groups of men accomplish a goal together. And that, to me, that is really, when you think about it evolutionarily, those are the men who survived, who grew the most. And you can think about that, everyone from like the Catholic Church to like Genghis Khan to whoever you want to say, but like groups of men coming together, the settlers who went west and settled the Western United States. All those people coming together, fighting wars. The U.S. and the United States and Britain fighting in World War II. These are groups of men coming together to accomplish goals, right? And then now you can think about it, people coming together to build a business, people coming together to run a sales team, to build a charity, whatever. Accomplishing goals with other people is the apex of human existence. So knowing that, then I was like, okay, networking is not this foreign thing. It's an evolutionary adaptation that I need to learn and study. So I started studying it, and then I started seeing these little tricks that I learned from hanging out with club promoters to get like 70 girls to come to my party are actually things that I can do to network with high status dudes. And then so I started doing it over and over again. And with you and with everybody else that I've met that's high status, the first thing I always try to do is offer value. I know that we always say offer value. What it really means is solve problems. I'm a problem solver. I'm Harvey Keitel in Pulp Fiction. I'm the wolf. If you call me, I'm going to solve problems for you. the way I communicate with people I love is by solving problems for them. My girlfriend is confused by this sometimes because she thinks that I should just sit there and listen. And I'm like, no, I'm solving. And like by the time she's done talking, I've solved all of her problems and she can't figure out what's going on. And then I was like, this is why people want to work for me. This is why people want to be friends with me. Like there's no good reason that like Andrew Tate would have introduced me to Justin Waller and introduced me to Fresh and Fit and introduced me to Rollo Tomassi. Why did he do that? He did that because I was trying to help him solve problems. Why? Why is Justin Waller and I really good friends? Why are my friends with Rollo Tomassi, Dan Bilzerian, Greg O'Gallagher, Brandon Carter? Why are my friends with these guys? Why has Ty Lopez invited me to come to this thing tomorrow and wants me to come on his podcast? I'm not that famous. Why? Dan Fleischman, I'm not that famous. Why is it? It is because every time we have a discussion, I'm like, Ty, how can I solve a problem for you? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's always the way it is for them. I'm like, what problem can I solve? And so that to me is the ultimate thing that I learned from studying networking as an evolutionary adaptation. The people who speak the language of problem solving, the extreme way to say it is what Justin Waller said. Justin Waller said, if we can't make money together, fuck you, I don't want to be friends. Now, I don't say it like that. That's the way Justin says it. But that's an extreme example of what I'm talking about. And if you don't do that, you got to understand there's one Owen Cook and there's hundreds of thousands of Owen Cook fans, but there's only one of you. It's a supply and demand thing. You can't sit there and be friends with all of them. But the ones you are going to be closer friends with, I mean, from a certain standpoint, I watched Foundations. I watched The Blueprint Decoded. I was a customer who became one of your friends. How did I do that? Because I was always trying to solve problems for you guys, right? And that is the thing that I learned for 25 years of studying this.
Click the link in the description and I'll send you my high status networking playbook for free, so you can start meeting high quality women today.